So I'm in love with this thing, and if you plan to use it, if you want it, right now is the perfect time to go and get one. All the way up until reset, we got double drops, do the GM, get the adepts. And I have what I want for PvE and the Crucible, but I want to talk about the reality of Buzzard. Like, it is great, go get one. And I would argue kind of pump the brakes of it being just the best in the game, way better than Drang. Like, no doubt it's great. But I do want to set some things straight, what you're getting yourself into with it, and I want to arm you with some things to carry on into the future. And also keep in mind, like, I don't have anything bad to say about Buzzard. It's a great weapon with some unique things. It's a must-have. And as of right now, let's remember a couple things. PvE-wise, sidearms received a 20% increased damage bonus against red and orange bar enemies. So basically, it's like you're just in a rift at all times. Like 20%'s no joke, goes a long way. I plan to show that. This thing does have some play in PvE. Also, sidearms are routinely in the artifact. They're now currently as piercing sidearms for anti-barrier. And as we continue with Destiny, Buzzard does have the right things to stay. It has a couple roles. They're going to do really good regardless of the meta or if things get changed. And sure, with these things, we want exactly what we want. But we all know a lot of the time, most of the time, we fall short a perk or two. But this thing's going to be even okay without your exact wants on it. So first of all, the stats, impressive. 300 RPM adaptive, same class as Drang. And Drang is the perfect comparison because Drang has been the king of sidearms. But also know that there are two like kind of sub-archetypes. And it's like this with a lot of weapons. Yes, it's a 300, but there's a couple versions of them. Like with these, there's a high stability, lower handling, and then there's ones that are higher handling, lower stability. So these are actually the opposite, Drang and Buzzard. They represent each category. And when you look at it, Buzzard has great stats. It's highlighted by the high base 67 stability and an archetype leading 89 aim assist, like even more than the exotic sidearms. But when you look closely here, like a big difference, Drang has a 13, 1.3 zoom. Buzzard has a 12, 1.2. And in the title review, I talked about this, and this comparison right here is perfect, like a perfect example as to why I want you to have some different options. And it's a perfect example as to why they're talking about changing things. And I think that they will. I've seen a lot of people say that the Buzzard's the best, gets the new Drang, it outranges Drang. As far as it outranging it, like yes and no. Because first of all, it's Drang's equal. It's up there in the Mount Rushmore of Destiny 2 sidearms. It really is because of its stats. For sure, let's get that right. But second of all, it's not as free as a lot of people are making it out to be. Because Drang has 1.3, just look at this. Adept Buzzard, Hammer Forged, Ricochet, Range Masterwork, Adept Range. So 71 on the stat bar. We got 16.38 meters. Well, base Drang starts off with 16.4. It beats it. Does it have some really good stats to get to that 16.38? Yeah, it does. So when I talk about the importance of like looking at your rolls, Bungie's intention to change zoom, fall off, decoupling that, this is what that looks like. Because Drang has 13, all that effort doesn't even get to base. So we can establish if you want range, Buzzard needs rangefinder. And it is very good on it. It will outrange it, but without it, you could have all those things that I talked about and Encore times 4, max range, like it's barely outranging a base Drang. And that's why Drang has been the king. And sure, yes, Buzzard can outrange it in a total of about 1.2 meters. That's with everything range and Encore times 4. I'm personally looking at rangefinder and non-rangefinder rolls. I would if I were you as well. I recommend that. And it does fantastic without rangefinder. And it's going to do great with rangefinder. And the reason being, all of it translates. Very easy to get to 100 stability on this thing. When it comes to your mag, masterwork, barrel, adept mod if you have it, perks. Very, very high stats, and the stats that matter. I'm very happy with my rangefinder roll, Perpetual Motion Rangefinder. So it's got adept range on, small bore, ricochet. Perpetual Motion times 2 is 100 stability, 51 handling, 53 reload. 17.6 meters. Nothing wrong with that. More than fine for a sidearm. You can't deny 100 stability. And this also has a good reload, a little bit more snappy. It duels very, very well. A big thing about these 300 adaptives is their pure stopping power. 0.6 TTK with 4 crits. If you are grinding this thing, you're going to get a ton of different rolls. Bad rolls, good rolls, halfway rolls. There are some things that I want you to kind of pay attention to. In the third column, we have Encore, fourth time, Compulsive Reloader, Pulse Monitor, Perpetual Motion Overflow, final column, Frenzy, Vorpal, Multi-Kill Clip, Rangefinder, Kinetic Trimmers, Swashbuckler. So that third column, PvP-wise, your top options, Perpetual Motion Encore, then kind of perk specific, we have Pulse Monitor, Compulsive Reloader. Now, Pulse Monitor is it's actually a pretty good perk. If you land everywhere else and get Pulse Monitor, it's going to be fine. And I view Encore and Perpetual Motion as a toss of a coin, dealer's choice. Technically, Encore is more future-proof if they do anything to range, because at max stacks you get plus 20 range and accuracy help and like plus 32 stability. It's great, but just simply running around with perpetual motion like I'm doing with my role, that's just as good. You don't get the range, but you have a very high uptime on max stats, such as your stability, getting high handling, high reload. And I've been loving this role, but honestly, to be completely honest, I am loving Compulsive Reloader multi-kill clip more, because check this out. Compulsive Reloader is 50 reload speed and a reload multiplier as far as the animation. So it's a very fast reload. And when it comes to multi-kill clip, ×1 is 17%. And this is why I like it so much. Let's look at the role that I have. Full bore, armor piercing rounds, adept range, and then I have a reload masterwork. So 69 range, 60 stability, 49 handling, 40 reload. Why I really like multi-kill clip on this is that no matter what, tier 10 and below, it's a 2 crit 2 body for the 0.6 TTK. And I have found that to be extremely beneficial with either flinch, whatever it is, 2 crit 2 body, 0.6. And also, tier 10 and below, it's a 5 body shot, so it's a 0.8 TTK to the body. You're downing either 4 or 5, both are extremely fast. In MKC, you can just chain, and with Compulsive Reloader, it's going in really, really fast. This is the one that I've actually been maining, more than my Perpetual Motion Rangefinder. And again, what's nice about these weapons, they do different things. You find out what gels with you, and what's put in the most work. Like, even in like trials, I would still take this. Because in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the range band, we're talking about 1.5 meters, 2 meters. Just slide forward a little bit. And it does so well because of its high base stats. It's got extremely good stats to where I would want to use something like this. And when you look at it, we have Swashbuckler. At a ×1, if they're tier 2 and below, you can 3 crit 1 body. However, Swashbuckler ×5 is a 3 crit. It's a 0.4 TTK. So you got a melee build, maybe running Arc Titan, maybe running Big Heavy Knife on Gunslinger. Maybe you're smacking people around with the Warlock. Swashbuckler is a play on this thing. It just depends on your playstyle. So PvP, extremely good. Top perks in the third are going to be Encore, Perpetual Motion. Then we have Pulse Monitor, and then Compulsive Reloader when it comes to multi-kill clip. That final column, multi-kill clip, Swashbuckler, Rangefinder. They're all going to perform. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is extremely better than the other, because I don't think that. I've played with a lot of different roles. It's just going to come down to preference. This is a good sidearm. Barrel and mag, it's got high base stability. And depending on what you get, again, Perpetual Motion can max you out its stability really, really quickly. If you don't have an adept version of this, that's okay. The perk combinations are still going to work well. It just makes you want to land a little bit better when it comes to the barrel and magazine. This thing is okay with full war because it's of that sub-archetype with high stability. If not, if there's a choice, Hammer Forge is fine. Small bore is fine. High cals or ricochet when it comes to the mag. Masterwork, range, or stability. Now, when it comes to PvE, I took this through the GM. It was fine. But here's what's really cool about this. This is a sidearm with kinetic trimmers, and what I wanted was overflow kinetic trimmers. Now, Perpetual Motion is going to be okay because of the reload. Fast reload on anything is going to be good. This is helping out with handling a little bit, helping out with stability a little bit, but with overflow, depending on your base mag, it's going to get to about 40 rounds. And with kinetic trimmers, it takes 12 shots for kinetic trimmers to proc. And kinetic trimmers, as we know, is just good extra damage. As an example, the base sidearm here does 4,899. Body is 3,495. The trimmers is 11,654 3 times. Does it in 3 waves. But since this is a sidearm, let's add in the Mechaneer's trick sleeves. The crit goes to 9,798. Body 6,989. The trimmer damage, 23,307 3 times. Then you could take it a little bit further. Trick sleeves and triple kinetic surge. It makes the trimmer damage go to 28,434. Like almost 100,000 damage just for landing damage on a target. It's really, really good. You know, it's funny, like I talk about these weapons. I talked about Battle Scar, which I used in the GMs before I put this thing on. Talk about Hung Jury. Like the kinetic trimmers can do it. Like Track's supposed to with the things that it does. I mean, GMs aren't too difficult. You have weapons that have jobs. This also does anti-barrier. So if kinetic trimmers gets a hold of anti-barrier, it will destroy it. That's what's nice about this thing. Since the enemies are a little bit more beefy when it comes to a GM, those mid-tier enemies, you're going to get kinetic trimmers to proc on them. It's going to take out the surrounding. It did fine. Might not be your cup of tea. That's okay, but it does great. Since it did get that 20% 2 red and orange bars, things like Frenzy start looking really, really good. Things like Vorpal look kind of decent because that's 20%. But I think mostly you're going to kind of revolve around kinetic trimmers, Frenzy, possibly Swashbuckler, depending on the content. Frenzy's just going to be nice for the max handling, max reload, 15% more damage. It's good, but kinetic trimmers, we know what that does. And with Buzzard, we now have like all the range gaps. Short to mid, mid to long, long to really long. So all in all, yeah, this is an incredible weapon. It really is. And I've noticed a lot of players, you might be included, you know, you're kind of on the fence on sidearms. But what's nice about Buzzard, especially if you're doing GMs, get one of these rolls and try it out. I think it's going to do quite well for you, and I think that you're going to enjoy it. And with this thing, because it has very high base stats and the ones that matter, like it is future-proof. If they change rangefinder, it's still got extremely good stats aside from range. It's going to duel. PvE-wise, it's actually usable in PvE content. Different flavor, might not be Volt Shot, might not be Incandescent. Kinetic Trimmers is its own thing. I do wish it had Shoot to Loot on the other side, but that's okay. Overflow, 4th time, Encore, Perpetual is going to be just fine. But that's going to do it for this one. Again, you have until reset, double drops, and you get a lot of materials. I would just get in there. Hope you guys had a good week and continue to have a good weekend. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about the Buzzard down below, adept or not. What do you like about it? How does it compare to some of your other favorite sidearms? And remember, within that sidearm range, even if range gets adjusted with zoom and rangefinder, they're all fairly close. A lot of it does come down to feel. This one feels great. There are a lot of S tier options. The exotics are good. The Sanuna is good. Or any of the Headseeker 3 bursts. They're really, really good. So player preference is a big deal with it. Let us know what you think. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I'm CoolGuy.